Hello again, Cliff Williams here. I am joined in the studio today with Chandra McGuire, and
can I just be Chandra?
Yeah, well, that's what I tried to make you be last time. You know what? I'm in the studio with Chandra today. All right, and today's gonna be a good day. We've not been tracking any videos for a while. I got COVID a while back. Got over it. We've also been working on some special projects here in the Red Room and out and beyond. So anyways, today we're going to talk about just kind of the stuff that's going on, some of the most not gospel things of the week, and we'll just hopefully have a good conversation. So this is Not Gospel.
As soon as you cross your legs, I got irritated.
This is comfortable to me. I'm a very manly man who requires a leg crossing.
You could, the Joe Rogan podcast has headphones for everybody.
I know.
And then I could hear you like over here.
Do you want headphones? I mean,
Maybe.
You look great. Do you want headphones?
Well, not right now. We'd have to plan it, and I'd have to test it in the mirror.
I have 2 sets of headphones specifically for that. It just wasn't as natural a vibe whenever we had to headphones.
Which, I think we do want to talk about the Joe Rogan stuff today.
Oh, yeah.
But did you hear about, how they said he got paid $100 million to Spotify or from Spotify? Mm-hmm. Did you know it's really over $200 million?
Now, yeah. Because he got offered $100 million. Did you know that?
Yeah, from Rumble.
Rumble offered him $100 million over a 4-year contract. So $25 million a year to say whatever he wants.
That's crazy.
What? Yeah, but I mean, it makes sense. So Joe Rogan has 10 times the viewership of legacy media, 10 times the viewership of CNN. So it's like, I mean, at what point?
Like he gets what, like 1 million views a video or something like that?
Oh yeah, it's stupid.
Whereas CNN will get
he has 11
top
million monthly listeners on Spotify alone. 11 million, and so. Just recently, CNN, I was watching one of the anchors. She said, she shrugged her shoulders and goes, we were out of ideas of what to do about Joe Rogan. And his response, I loved his response was, they shouldn't be trying to cancel me. They should just be trying to do their job better. Like, at what point do you realize canceling me is not the option? Because every time they try to cancel him, it funnels more people to Joe Rogan.
Yes.
They're like, I want to see what all the stuff's about. So he's right. They shouldn't be trying to cancel him. They should be trying to do their job better.
Yeah.
Well, or get, see what he's doing and try to emulate that a little bit, or something.
Well, he's bringing people from the media to him. Like he had that, what's his name, Sanjay Gupta, that does CNN, and he's a doctor and stuff. Yeah. And that turned even more people off.
Well, it turned
He would double back on his own opinions often, and then he wouldn't make sense on his recommendations.
It was good for the conservatives because they were able to have all these millions of videos that said Sanjay gets destroyed by Joe Rogan, or CNN correspondent gets destroyed by Joe Rogan. That was like the headline or whatever over and over. Because there was a 3-minute clip where Joe Rogan let him have it, kind of. Right, Joel? Thumbs up. No, okay, so the Joe Rogan conundrum and the Joe Rogan problem is also people on what I think is dumb now. I think this is pretty, well, I understand it, but it's aggravating to me, is people in legacy media and left-wing media and liberal media now are simply just mentioning Joe Rogan just to try and get more views.
Yeah.
Like Don Lemon just recently said he'd love to have Joe Rogan on the show or something like that. Talked about how he'd love to engage with Joe Rogan, either be on Joe Rogan's podcast or whatever. They have no intention of having Joe Rogan on their show. No way. That cannot, in my opinion, that cannot be a genuine thing. But
I don't know if he's like the biggest thing right now.
Yeah, but it would not. It is not going to be a favorable interview for them.
I know, but everybody hated Trump, hated him, and still would interview him.
I don't see it.
Well, at first they did, and then they got to where they didn't.
But that's the problem is now, I don't think you're dealing with an at first thing with Joe Rogan now. Now everybody knows what he's about.
Yeah.
He's a libertarian that has, the left's moved so far to the left that they can't claim him anymore.
Tim Pool did a study, and he said people on the left only listen to people on the left primarily.
Yeah.
And then he said people on the right do both. So the left has no idea of the self-perception of how they are or what people are saying about them. So the whole thing of Joe Rogan going on, they would never put him on because then what they see that as is he's well, they say he's racist, he's sexist, and he's anti-vax. So they would be promoting him. They would never do that.
Yeah. Okay. So wait, I may have been wrong. I don't think it may not have been Don Lemon. I think what I'm referencing is Trevor Noah. I think Trevor Noah was saying he'd love to be either on Joe Rogan's podcast.
That was Trevor Noah.
Okay, so it was Trevor Noah.
Trevor Noah messaged Steven Crowder about, can I come on your thing? And Steven Crowder's like, we would love to have you, but I don't think this is genuine.
But right, and here's the thing. If Trevor Noah's trying to rebrand himself and reclaim his image, then good for him because he has a pretty... In my opinion, he's low-hanging fruit. Trevor Noah has turned into, I felt like for a while, he's just been a propaganda bag for the left.
Yeah, but I think he knows that, and I'm hoping he's trying to change it because...
That's what I'm saying. If he's trying to reclaim that image, that's good.
Yes, because I've seen him in outside interviews.
He's funny.
And I like him outside of his job, but when he's doing his thing, he's
funny and intelligent.
He's a hypocrite is what he is.
Have you guys noticed if you watch like stuff on the left and even from like podcasts or whatever it is, they have this like... It's like this barrier in front of them. You're not seeing them. It's like you're getting these talking points. They're not allowed to be themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
That's even like Geeks and Gamers talks about how that's basically the conservative game thing. They talk about all the Star Wars shills. They'll be like, how's it going, everybody? Today, we're talking about Star Wars land. And Geeks and Gamers is like, what's up, guys? Okay, this place sucks. Like, that thing on the left is this fake narrative.
So... You're getting one constant message, it feels like, and it feels like it's an approved message. You know, like it went through so many filters that now they can talk about it. It doesn't feel raw. It doesn't feel authentic, and that is so boring. That is so boring for somebody with an ounce of smarts.
Yeah.
You take Crowder and he gets on the camera. He's like, "What's going on, everybody? Today we're gonna do this." You talk to Trevor Noah, and he's like, "Today." Well, and he has you can tell he's reading a joke.
On the opposite end of that, we've talked about this before. Yeah. Sometimes some of the Christian entertainment, that's just purely Christian entertainment made by Christian filmmakers and whatever, feels like it's been through all of these filters. They filtered the message to make it family safe or this and that and the other, to where it can get dull and boring. It feels uninteresting at times. I'm not trying to be hypercritical of Christians, which is what makes something good really stand out, like The Chosen. That show, I've watched so many clips of that, I'll start tearing up because it's really done well. It still is kind of filtered down to what is like a safe, palatable format, you know.
They gave my film an R rating.
The
Christian, by the Christian, what is it? It's the Dove Foundation.
Dove Foundation?
It's like a 17+, so it's not even an R. It's like because there's suicide and girl shorts.
Yeah. Now, and here's one thing. Now, we're believers that, all of us believers in not gospel, and we wanted to be more positive in 2022 and on, and bring levity and stuff. But here's one thing that I do, an issue that I take, is that if something, they gave your film an R rating, it's not really any language or anything, and not like violence to speak of, just some shoving around and a little bit like nothing crazy. But they would these same people would take teenage kids to watch the new Marvel movie. That would say more swear words, have more violence. People's heads and arms and stuff coming off. Granted, it's CGI and it's aliens and whatnot, but that's the thing that irks me. Is like if you're a Christian content made by Christian people in the Christian creative space, you're treated differently, and like, oh well, it's an R rating, but it's not even close to some of the language and violence and stuff you'd find in like the typical Marvel movie or something like that they would all take their kids to watch.
And the Bible's like X-rated.
Oh Lord, you need to do a movie where you collect 200 foreskins and you present them to somebody, because that's scripture, baby. Let's Who was that? That was David with Saul. David brought the 200 foreskins of the Philistines.
I don't remember that little Bible fact.
It's true. Oh, all of this is actually good in reference to one of the topics we wanted to talk about that you had mentioned last week, I think, or a couple weeks ago before I got COVID, which is should conservative people listen to Joe Rogan?
Yeah.
Now, for some conservative people, I think they would immediately, like me at the start when you mentioned that, there was this part of me that was like, well, of course, that's a dumb question. Of course we should listen to Joe Rogan. But then when I think about it more, I get the heart of the question. You're essentially saying because he's obviously like an open non-believer, speaks about the church in sort of a satirical kind of fashion. He's pretty critical of the church and religion as a whole. You're saying...
Oh, well... I mean, he will actively make fun of Jesus and say the disciples were on mushrooms. So, okay. I mean, you do have to take that into account.
How much influence do you allow someone with those kind of opinions? Yeah. How much headspace in your home? How much room in your information tank do you allow them? Okay. But you had said that a preacher friend of yours or your mom's or somebody like that was starting to get a lot of flack because they...
No, I was just saying...
You know?
My mom irritates me. Hi, Mom.
Hi, Mom.
I was just saying, she knows.
We love moms here.
She knows. We'll see. Okay, nice Christian lady. I was raised Pentecostal, and but she's very strict. Won't watch rated R movies, and I'll watch rated R movies as long as it's not extremely vulgar, or overly sexual. But
I call it glorifying something like devilish, one of the like something really sinful. I'm not gonna watch something that's glorifying that too much. I can't handle it.
But I'll watch Joe Rogan, and depend on which guest he has and what I'm interested in and stuff. But if he starts talking about Jesus and stuff, I just fast forward. Like, that's just what I do. Well, but Mom's like, yo, you should listen to that. But then when she found out her pastor listened to him, because he likes to be acquainted with what the world says about things. You just outed
her pastor.
Well, he likes to be acquainted with different opinions and what people are saying about things, so he can approach people there in the world and know how to talk to them about their opinions.
Well, see, that's more my line of thought on it. I mean, I read the Quran, because I wanted to know for myself. I don't want somebody else telling me.
But I just got a little bit irritated at her because I felt like she was like, "Oh, well, if my pastor does it, maybe it's okay," and just doesn't trust me.
She
as
wouldn't
a human
take
being. Yeah,
you were just being a silly little Chandra at that point,
Yeah.
Well, what do you think about listening to Joe Rogan? You said that you turn him off when he talks about religious stuff, let's say, or fast forward or whatever. But do you think you're in any way, even maybe on a subconscious level, do you think you're possibly negatively influenced?
The only way I think I might have some issues is I am a humorous person, and I tend towards, I could be a little bawdy sometimes accidentally. And then also, if I'm alone, I'll accidentally cuss inside my head when I'm not a person who cusses out loud ever.
The average listener is like, if cussing inside your head is sinful, there's no space for me in the church.
That line has got to go on the TV show. Sometimes, look, I'm a good person. I
ain't doing no swearing, man. I ain't doing no swearing. But I'll tell you right now, I do say I use some strong letters in my head.
But I'm just saying, I'm not someone who, verbally says stuff. It's just not. But when you hear it all the time, it does seep into your.
Sorry, we just had Pickle just came in and licking us.
I'm easily distracted.
I need a swear box in my house, I think.
Well, see, you shouldn't cuss. Maybe you shouldn't listen to Joe Rogan.
No. Well, okay, so I watched this show on Peacock called Wolf Like Me. And do you have Peacock?
I don't know. Is it like a app?
It's a subscription service for like NBC or whatever the Peacock was. It has The Office.
No, I do CBS because I like Big Brother and Survivor.
Okay, well, it's one of the Peacock original series. It's only 6 episodes long. It has Isla Fisher and Josh Gad.
Yeah.
And
Which I don't like him at all.
You don't like him?
Oh, he's like a worse Jack Black.
He can be annoying to me. I'll say that much. He's annoying. Worse Jack Black. I don't know what that means, but
I mean, Jack Black is kind of gross and irritating.
Okay, all right.
But he's worse.
This guy's. If you ever thought Jack Black was gross and irritating, Josh Gad.
But at least Jack Black, I mean, he's talented, like super talented.
Yeah.
I mean, Josh Gad, he's talented too. But
I think
it's
also,
different.
Well, I will say he did an excellent job in Wolf Like Me, and Isla Fisher does too. The premise is it's about a werewolf. Isla Fisher's a werewolf.
Isla's the werewolf?
Yes. But which you kind of don't see coming unless you saw the trailers a little bit. You know, okay, she turns and something happens with her. The interesting thing though is it doesn't focus. The fact that she's a werewolf is not the focus. The focus is on Josh Gad, his 11-year-old daughter, and her and their relationship, and her interjecting into their life, kind of how it happens, and them trying to be in a relationship with each other. His wife passed away, so he's left with a daughter, and it's about him finding out about Isla Fisher's being a werewolf and how they deal with it. And there's so many funny moments, but it feels very real. There's times when it's like, that's exactly how somebody would freak out if they found this out about somebody. But the only reason I brought it up is because it's in Australia, and there's a family in there that has the swear jar. And so the kids, it made me think about having a swear jar, because the kids, whenever they say a bad word, the kids are like, swear jar! And they say it in their Australian accent. He's like, oh, crap. And they have to go put money in it.
Have you had a moment with your kids where they cussed yet?
Yes, accidentally. I put a bar of all natural soap in my eldest's mouth because he stubbed his toe and said,
I don't think you should put that online.
It's all natural, and it was only for a minute. Not even a minute. It wasn't that long.
What did he do?
He said the S word when he stubbed his toe.
Not even the F word?
And then I said, no, that's not why. Don't judge me until you get the whole story. All right, so he said the S-bomb, and I go, hey, man, like, that's a bad word. You know that. Don't do that. Then a little bit later, he's like, I'm talking within 30 seconds, he stubs his toe again or something. And he says it again, and I go, dude, I just told you not. And I can't remember now if it was 2 or 3 times, but within a span of 3 minutes, he said it like 2 or 3 times. And finally, I was like, that's it.
Where is he getting that behavior, Clifton?
I don't know. He goes to public school. I mean,
let's blame it on that.
I'm going to blame it on public school. That is a safe space to blame a lot of anything wrong going on with your kids. Just blame the public school arena. I'm kidding. We have a great school system, and his teachers.
I think
are
I would
really
homeschool.
You know, when my kids got older, I might homeschool. Like,
that's huge for you to say, because my whole life I've always been like, I kind of like homeschool, and you're always like, but they won't get socialized.
Well, it's because
I'm a victim of that.
I've turned into, and I still feel this way, I feel like adversity is going to make stronger character.
Yeah.
And I feel like sheltering my kids isn't going to do them much good in terms of making them stronger, making them more adept. I think that the problem I have is if I'm going to have to be as hands-on with my kids' education and high school as I think I will be, to make sure they get a quality education, I might as well be teaching them homeschool. That's the problem I have.
Yeah.
Because if I think about it, and I've said this before, I was having like a low, oh, woe is me, pity party day, on like a bad attitude day, and just feeling bummed out. And so I pulled open my computer and I just started writing all my thoughts. And one of them was talking about school, and I was like, I'm really, really coming down hard on the high school education program. But if I think about it, and I think a lot of people, if they honestly think about it, is like, I didn't read anything of value in high school that I can remember that stuck with me. It's after high school that now I've read some things that I think are worth merit.
Well, you know how I got my GED. I dropped out because someone did something awful in high school. No, I got my GED, and I felt like I could have passed the test after 8th grade. Like, high school was a wash. I learned everything I needed to know by 8th grade.
Well, that's what I'm saying is if it's gonna be, if they're not gonna do any school reform, and my eldest is 8, so you've got, what? How many? 6, 7 years to figure it out, before I guess he's in 2nd grade. High school is 9th grade, so yeah, he's got 7 years to reform your school system before I'm like, okay. Which I hate that, because I don't want him to be taken out of sports and stuff like that. Like I want, again, I feel like that stuff helps develop you. Yes, it comes with its baggage of a bunch of circumstances. You don't exposure to things you may not want your kids around.
Yeah.
But if you don't expose them to stuff and let them deal with that stuff, they're not gonna. How are they gonna handle it? You know what I'm saying? The world's out there. They're gonna get a hold of it at some point. So I don't know. But homeschool is feeling like a better and better option every day.
Well, that brings you back to the Christian movie industry, where it feels like you're in this Christian bubble, and you're not trying to keep your kids in no little bubble, but the whole Christian industry tries to be this little Christian bubble.
Yeah, well, we're experiencing that right now. Me and Joel and Big Little Church. I've had people tell us that Big Little Church Christian satire never goes over well, because they take themselves so serious. It's taboo to make fun of any element of the church.
That's awful.
And it's like, we're not making fun we're Christians. The moral of the show is that church is important, and these people are trying to make a difference in their community.
I think as long as you do it in a loving way where they can tell that you sincerely
Last time you were on the show, you said hubbaloo. And you said hubbaloo's a word.
Yeah.
It's hullabaloo. And my wife goes,
I didn't know you was going to use this podcast to just point out how often I'm wrong.
No, I've listened to our clips from the last time and laughed so much because we had such a good time. Yeah. But that clip gets on there.
Hubbaloo, hullaboo.
And you look at the camera. Hubbaloo's a word. And my wife goes, actually, Clifton, it's not. I was like, I wasn't thinking about that at the time. Leave it to the doctor, right?
Yes. Katie can be the deal breaker.
The buck ends with her. So we really haven't talked about whether you should listen to Joe Rogan or not.
If you enjoy his content, sure.
Well, I think the bigger question there is why should you listen to any of it? Mm-hmm. Like, why listen to CNN at that point? Why listen to anything legacy media?
You just need information.
Okay. If the need is just information, I think...
Or entertainment. Yeah.
I think listening to Joe Rogan becomes an absolute no-brainer when you think about it from that perspective. It's like, if you would watch CNN, if you would watch anything non-Christian, you can watch anything non-Christian, almost. Unless it's, like you said, unless it's blatantly... I don't like movies like Hostel and all that stuff, and the Saw franchise and all that stuff, because I feel like it's glorifying like disgusting murder and like. Yeah. So if it's not something like that, for information's sake, I don't really know that there's an argument to be had. Don't watch Joe Rogan if you're a conservative, in my opinion. I would say that the better argument is use common sense and don't accept everything that's said as just straight gospel truth. Accept it for what it is. It's somebody's opinion.
He's just having conversations with people, and some of these people are other comedians. I wouldn't watch those episodes because they're gonna talk dirty and cuss and stuff. But if he's talking to Ben Shapiro, there's like one curse word the whole time or something.
Yeah, yeah.
And it might have been Ben who said it.
Well, and I watched the one about 40 minutes of the one that you told me to watch, where he had the doctor who worked on all the vaccines, he's the most published medical worker in forever. Yeah. Malcolm Malone it's Post Malone.
Was he on there?
Probably.
I think he did.
He probably was on there. Everybody's been on there. Yeah. Except me. I'm waiting on my invitation, Joe. If we were trying to, what is the argument to not listen to Joe Rogan? For a conservative?
Well, I don't know. I know, maybe, I don't know.
Because when I try to think about it, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Like,
well, I always think about your guitar player, Eric Vanzant.
Okay.
Previous guitar player, Eric Vanzant. I remember a Facebook post he made years ago. And he
this is why I'm thinking about giving my dog away to a nice home.
A farm somewhere.
A farm somewhere. He's a handsome fella.
But Eric was talking about, he put on his Facebook something about, yes, I listen to secular music. Yes, I'm a Christian artist. And he's like, I'm allowed to. And it doesn't make me a worse person or a worse Christian. I mean, he worded it so eloquently, I can't say it. But I always think about that and the pressure that Christians in the spotlight have to be like, to put on this pretend facade sometimes. Facade? Facade?
I like facade, but if facade sounds like a swear word. I'm about to go on a facade. I do think it's not fair, and it sounds like, oh, woe is me. I don't think it's fair that people of influence aren't allowed to have an opinion on certain things because of the space that they're in influence.
I think that's where that verse in the Bible where it talks about you're held to a higher standard. I think in a way it's talking about how people will view you, because I just, so I think that's part of it. And
there's a scripture also that says, do not, a couple times in the Bible it says, do not let your good be evil spoken of. So in essence, do not do something that can be interpreted, live above a reproach or whatever. And I think that's what has caused a lot of Christians to not engage in the difficult space and the difficult conversations.
If I posted on Facebook tomorrow that, like, man, I just love Joe Rogan, he's whatever. Somebody message me. Someone's gonna be like, man, that's weird. Why didn't he post about like a preacher or something? They will think that because people now come up to me and they're like, they'll cuss and they'll be like, oh, like, literally, and I'm like, no, it's fine. Like, but there's this idea that as a leader, I don't know, maybe they're looking to me for something. So when you say, should we listen to Joe Rogan? I'm like, maybe not publicly. I don't know. I'm not.
You know what? Also, I don't like conservatives and Christians. First off, I think those two labels are unique. Yeah. They're not mutually exclusive. You don't have to be one or the other, and you don't have to be both. But I think conservatives and Christians, I don't like the separation. I don't like the sects of or the sex, SECT, right? I don't like segregating ourselves in our own little cliques. If you have the Christians that do listen to Joe Rogan and the Christians that don't listen to Joe Rogan, and there's no overlap and they can't tolerate one another, you're destroying yourself from within. I think that sucks. Yeah. That's, it's like, and everything's like that, it feels like in Christian world. The teetotalers, the people that don't drink versus the people that are okay with a drink. And then if you do occasionally have a drink because this scripture or that scripture, teetotalers can't even have a relationship with those people. Or there's people who feel so judged by the teetotalers that they won't have a relationship with them. They'll be like, oh yeah, well, and teetotalers, for those who don't know, probably everybody does know, people who don't drink at all, which, whatever, that's, I wish more important to me than agreeing on everything is being able to share the same space and be comfortable and love each other while having different views. So what would frustrate me is if I had heard about your mom's preacher and stuff, and then all of a sudden a quarter of his church leaves. Yeah. Because he listens to Joe Rogan, regardless of his reasoning. And I think that kind of stuff exists in the church, unfortunately. So, moral of the story is you should listen to Joe Rogan or shouldn't listen to Joe Rogan.
I think you should pray about it.
You should figure out your own salvation with fear and trembling. We're going to use that scripture on every single episode of Not Gospel. I tell you what, we're going to deliver to you our opinions, and then we're going to say, figure it out yourselves. Good luck. Hey, the Bible's out there. Read it, baby.
Well, I was raised up pretty strict-minded. and you're more liberal-minded, I would say, as far as a Christian goes. And we've gotten some big rows because, you know, I'm more like, can't do that if you're a Christian, shouldn't do this. And as I'm getting older, I'm starting to feel a little more lax on stuff. And then I start feeling like, does that mean I'm not as good as a Christian as I used to be?
Is your conscience being seared?
Yeah. Like it's a paranoia thing. Like I was raised, there's a standard of holiness and you have to keep yourself clean in all ways, you know?
Well, a couple things. I think as you get older, I think part of that is natural in that you do get a little more empathy. Me and Joel have talked about that before. I think, and I think you and I may have had conversations about it where as the burden of your responsibility becomes more complex in your life, you get a little bit more empathy, right? Like perspective starts, things that were super important all of a sudden aren't as important.
Yeah.
You know, when I got 3 kids and all this kind of stuff going on in the house, when you've got a marriage and you've got multiple career possibilities that you're trying to like filter through which ones are the ones I'm going to, you know, grasp onto, all of a sudden a lot of things that mattered when you were younger, you're like, that's probably not as important, as big a deal as I used to think it was. Not a good hill to die on or whatever. So I think some of that's natural, but I do think there's also the wonder for any concerned Christian, if you're worth your salt, you do wonder if you're just not getting complacent or just trying to be accepted.
Yeah.
Like, well, everybody else is okay with this, so I mean, come on. I mean, what's it hurt? I mean, that's not good. You know, like that's not where you want to be. But I mean, I think most of the answers are there scripturally, and a lot of that. And I know that sounds fundamentalist, but I really do feel like for me, most of the answers that for the issues I've had have been scripture. Like you can search the scriptures and find what you're looking for.
Yeah.
Thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed this clip from Not Gospel, if you enjoyed this podcast, like, comment, subscribe. Keep watching and on all the social medias for new projects that we're coming out with. Some big stuff on the horizon. And as always, keep being awesome because that's how God made you.